I think we're ready. Okay. Welcome to the August webinar. We apologize for the delay. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties that have gotten us off to a slow start. For those that are there, I'm glad that you have hung on. I think it's a really important topic that we're talking about today. So first, let me introduce some of the guests that we have that are joining us. We have Holly Culver. She is a local therapist here in Boise with holistic counseling. And we have Shelby, who is a member of Youth Move and has been really involved in a lot of the leadership of the group over the last year or two. So we're really pleased because what she's bringing us is really the authentic voice of band. So to recognize that both for Holly and I, we have our own experiences at the age that we are at, Susie, also kind of in her mid-late 20s, and then Shelby as a teen. So I think we've got some really good perspective on what it's like for women growing up. And to say that we also at some point in time would love to throw in the male perspective. So you may see this topic loop back around again. Real quickly, we do have this archived on the Federation website. So if there's a lot of information. The slides that Holly will be sharing will be there if you want to loop back around and see those, and also share it with friends and family. And with that, I'm going to let Holly and Susie share more information, Holly about her practice and Susie about Youth Move, because I think it's really important information as far as a resource for those in the community. So ladies, thank you for coming. It's a great topic. It's not always an easy one to talk about, but I think there's a lot of value in kind of starting the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. It's really an honor to work with you ladies, too. So, holistic counseling is the name of my practice, also my name, Holly Culver, and what I really focus on is helping people to integrate body, mind, and spirit issues. So body image is like at the top, eating issues, lifespan issues, the kind of stuff that I like to do with people. And I don't really specify an age group, but just those that really want to work at the core issue rather than the flower. Like what we're talking about today, body issue, is really a flower of a deeper issue that we're going to broach on the set today.
And so I run Idaho Youth Move, which stands for Youth Motivating Others Through Voices of Experience. We are a chapter from a national chapter, so our national organization. We have youth moves throughout the state in most of the regions. We have 7 regions, and our goal is to create groups that are youth-driven, support groups that get peer-to-peer support from the youth who are in the group, as well as teach advocacy skills so that youth can start advocating for their own recovery, as well as those like Shelby who can then also go out and advocate for other youth who might not have a voice at this time. And if you want to say something added to that.
Sure. As said before, my name is Shelby, and I'm a youth advocate with Idaho Youth Move. I've been working with Susie for 2 years, and I've loved it. And I mainly am advocating for mental illness and youth rights in the state. So yeah.
And thanks for all you've contributed, because I know other youth seeing you out in the community has given them kind of the courage to step into it also. So you have been an important influence in the community to other kids, so we appreciate that. So Holly, I'm going to let you start as far as how you, I know that you all have had a discussion kind of ongoing, but I'll let you start off with the conversation. And
Shelby, would you be comfortable sharing a little bit about how body image has impacted your age group and some of the things that we've been speaking about outside of today?
As far as the influences that we have right now within our lives, and influences from when we were children, is kind of where we would like to start with that.
And I'm going to, before you start, let me interject one more thing. So there is a chat box, and we would love to hear from those that are watching. If you have questions, or if you just want to share information with other people that are also watching, please know that you can go into that live chat box, and I will be checking that and at the appropriate time trying to interject some of those questions. Okay, sorry to cut you off.
All right, sounds good. So there's 3 main influences that I feel are extremely important to talk about. One is really obvious: media. We talk about it a lot. And personally, for me, one that's really affected my life is fitness inspiration, or Fitspo. That's the biggest media influence that has affected me when I see all these men that are usually naturally skinny, but just with really toned bodies, and you know, striving to get that perfect image, that pleasing body, pleasing to the eye, you know. So that's a huge one for me. I know it's a huge one for all of my peers, and I'm pretty sure it's huge for any age group, woman or man.
Yeah.
And the next influence that I want to talk about is peers themselves. That you can't go through your life without hearing from your peers all of the self-talk about their bodies and other people's bodies, and whether that be negative or positive, it's out there. And should we go more in depth in that, or?
Yeah, I think that with peers, I know within my own life that I've gone through different stages where, you know, as a child, you know, we just played and it was a lot of fun, and then it kind of morphed within middle school where it was all of a sudden, you know, we would sit around the table and we would start discussions like yeah, like I really wish I didn't have, you know, this butt, or I wish that I can get rid of like my arm fat, and we would start going around and talking just about, you know, our hair and how we didn't like it, and in a way it was comforting. And I know, Shelby, you've kind of talked about that in previous times, where it's almost a comfort that when we have insecurities that we can discuss that. And that was a big trend. And not only that, when our peers are pointing at other people and sitting there and saying, you know, oh, why is that girl wearing that? Or, you know, why does that boy look like that? And really kind of comparing what people look like. And at this age in my life, it's kind of transitioning again, where a lot of the people who's, you know, body image negative, I find that I gravitate more away from and start gravitating towards people who are more body positive. Because it's really hard to kind of live in that space all the time, where the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, oh, my hair's so flat today. It's like, I don't have time.
Yeah. Shelby, would you want to tell me a little bit more about how your peers have impacted you in regards to how you feel about yourself?
Yeah, well, it's very much, I feel like, a part of just culture, just negative self-talk. But, well, so anywhere I go, you know, with my friends, I'm always around that negativity when it comes to talking about our own bodies or talking about other people's bodies. I'm always around it just because it's kind of a comfortable conversation to have. It's kind of sad that that's a comfortable conversation to have, but it is. And so when I'm around my friends, it's just normal for everyone to talk about the things that they don't love about themselves. And so I'm always around that negativity, and if I were to sit there and just be like, you know what, I love myself and I don't think there's anything wrong with me about my body, I'd be like the black sheep pretty much. And just hearing everyone talking about the things that they don't like about their bodies, it makes me look at my own self and be like, well, you know what, yeah, there are some things that I also don't like about myself. And I don't know, so
it's kind of like a fitting in type thing.
Yeah.
Is to be part of the group, is that's part of the agreement you all have, is to focus on that. And I guess, I mean, it's so fascinating to hear this, because being a mother of a 19-year-old daughter, and hearing a lot of that talk within the house, just, you know, she's frequently unhappy and complaining about things, and then mentioning also that her friends who are, you know, tend to be thin, athletic girls also are doing the same thing. So there's never that sense of satisfaction or contentment. And where does that come from? I mean, what's underlying that so many of our girls are dissatisfied?
We've become very enamored with the outward rather than the inward. We've become very impressed with the way society says this is what beauty is. This is what is acceptable, sort of like what we talked about, you know, some of the models growing up that we've had, that they'll say one thing and then do another, right? Which sends a confusing message, instead of really becoming comfortable in our own skin and who we are as our own human beings, and comfortable with the truth about our own body. I think that's one of the core issues that feeds this, right?
And if you really think about it, all of our behaviors pretty much are learned by our parents, which is the third big influence that I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
So if you take us back a little bit and think about like racism, like you aren't born with that. You learn that from your parent. If you're a child, you just accept everyone as they are. Like, sure, you'll say some mean comments every now and then just because, well, they're not really mean, they're just blunt. They're just like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, you have a really pointy nose. It's like, they're just pointing things out. They're not trying to be mean.
Yeah.
So these judgments, they're learned from parents. They hear their parents talk, and they repeat what their parents say, and they start to believe the things that their parents believe. So,
And I think that is so true in the way that, you know, a lot of times, it's very rare that I don't see this, that parents just want to love.
Mm-hmm.
And they want us to feel beautiful and confident and just take the world by storm and never have anything bad to say about ourselves. And so they tell us things like, you're beautiful, you're perfect. And this is a lot of what I had growing up. You're perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. You're, you know, the prettiest girl out there, and saying these words. But then when I was watching, just in our home, it's the things that then, you know, my mother would say about herself. You know, like, you know, when it comes to weight, or when it comes to not liking a body part, or not liking maybe something that she did, and here I am, here's my role model who is everything to me, saying I'm perfect, but then, you know, being self-critical of themselves, and it was hard for me to hear that and then not take that in and be like, well, if
It creates confusion, doesn't it? Because it's like you hear, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're perfect just as you are, but the conflict is inside of you. Is like, man, when I look in the mirror, I certainly don't feel like what my mom says about me, or my dad says about me, or my friends say about me, because they love you and they're trying to draw you out, right? But what you're struggling with inside is the truth of how you really feel. And I think that's one of the greatest issues in this, is we are not comfortable with coming to truth in our own beings, right? If you're able to say, Susie, gosh, Mom, thank you for saying that, but this is how I genuinely feel in my body, and I don't feel perfect, and I don't feel beautiful, and I don't feel like I fit the size that you want me to fit. Wouldn't that lend itself to a conversation? You know, if mom, dad, friend just would say, well, honey, how do you feel? Tell me more about that. What that does is that opens up the conversation for real dialogue. And then the body image issue is no longer the issue, right? It starts to float away.
And I think it's really, really difficult for parents to have that initial conversation in that way. I
Why do you think it is?
Because and I can just share, I actually discussed this with my mom before coming on here and saying, hey, what can I share? Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be texting in, chatting, questions, like what's happening? I said, is it okay? And I discussed some of the things I wanted to share. And immediately she jumped into you know, you're the most beautiful girl. There's nothing that's ever been wrong with you. I want you to feel empowered, and like you're this and that. And she went right into trying to make me feel better. And being, and I don't know if it's because it hurts her that I feel that way, but it was even then where I was like, you know, Mom, I love you. So thank you, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
And you know what, I want to jump off on that just for a minute, because I really want to, and we were talking about this yesterday when, you know, before today, and that is that we know, all of us know, that our parents meant the best. They mean the best. I can say that in all the years that I've been in practice, that I don't know that I've ever really met a parent that has ever deliberately wanted to hurt their children. Children do not come with instructions, right, Carol? I mean, it's that whole sense of, I've got this baby now, what do I do? And most of our parents are growing up with us as kids. So they're kids with kids. So I really want to make it clear that I know, and we all know, that our parents did the best they could with what they had.
I think a lot of it's also cultural, because you think about when you acknowledge or praise a young girl, often it's for how she looks. That is the cutest little dress, or look at those little shoes, or I love your ponytails. And so what building that or
Yeah.
making that or jumping high. So we acknowledge the boys for what they do,
Yeah.
and we recognize the girls for how they look.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
that goes back a long time, and
Yeah.
it's not something that we really think about. When I
Yeah.
think a lot of times when it gets pointed out to
Yeah.
parents, all of a sudden we go, oh, I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
But until like someone points that out to us,
Mhm.
we just, because that's what my parents did to me, that's what my
Mhm.
friends do to their children.
Yeah.
So
And that becomes the societal norm. It's what's
Yeah.
acceptable.
Mhm.
Being beautiful, being skinny, or like what you just
Mhm.
said, the man is being masculine, building things, the
Mhm.
woman is beautiful.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm saying is we've gotten away from what is really important.
Mhm.
And what's really important is connection. What's really important is honesty. What's really
Mhm.
important is humility. And the honesty within your own soul of who am I and how do I feel about my body.
Mhm.
It's not how I present. It's who am I with me,
Right.
right?
Well,
Shelby, did you want to?
Yeah, and if I can go back a little bit, just
Yeah.
a bit, talking about how the parents usually have like the best intent for their children, and they're just trying to love their child, and oftentimes that can come in praise, and being like you're perfect,
Yeah.
you're beautiful, and also it can come from, it can show as trying to hide all this negative self-talk, to not
Like
let
their
the
own
child
personal
know.
self-talk?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
let the child know, try to protect their child from hearing it. Well, that can only work so much because, first of all, the children's going to hear it from the peers. And even without the peers, even if they were just, for some reason stuck in the house just with their parent, they can see past that. They can see that their parent is struggling.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
you can always see,
Yeah.
especially when you're that close to someone like your mother, you can see if she's struggling, even if she doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And the child will still know that.
Might not specifically know, but know that there's more than what's
Yeah,
being said.
And I think that you can still feel negative about yourself, and you can still have all of the self-talk and have a relationship with your child where they don't, or where they can grow from it, because, well, and to do that, I would say, would be to have that honesty with the child
Yeah.
instead of trying to hide it. Have that honest talk with them and say, this is something that I struggle with, and if you struggle with it, then we can work through it together.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of hiding it and just being like, well, I just want you to know that you're perfect and beautiful, and I'm just not going to talk about how I feel about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, but do you think that it would have like if you guys reflect back on some of the conversations you've had with your moms about these issues, right? If you said to mom, so mom, how do you feel about your body? Or if your mom said, Susie, I've struggled with this too my whole life, and so what I want to do is protect you to not feel what I feel, because I think parents do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think if your mom or our moms feel so uncertain or insecure or ill-equipped even, to mother or to nurture their child, they want to protect you from it. So it's easier to kind of say, this is who you are, because I never ever want you to feel what I feel.
Yes.
Because it's a horrible feeling to feel insecure, right? And what you're saying, I think, is so critical. And it's which is the biggest tool in our conversation today is communication, starting the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm. And well, I think the reason why the compliments don't work, one of the reasons, is because you're telling the kid what they should feel instead of listening to what they have to say about themselves.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be heard, not told how they feel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point.
Absolutely. And I think, I know that it was really hard for me to hear, because I was in that conversation with my mom, not previous, but when I was younger, that, she wanted to protect me. She didn't want me to feel and struggle with the things that she struggled with.
Yeah.
And it always came back to, but I'm already feeling it. I'm already there.
Yeah.
I'm already struggling.
Yeah.
Like, there was no stopping
Yeah.
that train.
Yeah.
And so it was really difficult because then as a youth, then how do I, not wanting to hurt my mom and saying, well, protection did not work. The shield left the building.
Yeah.
Like, how can I, honestly say, but I'm here and I hurt and I already feel, unbeautiful or big or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
and hurt that. So it's really being careful with that conversation and making sure that, you know, you're really hearing
Yeah.
and listening,
Mm-hmm.
and the compliments, they fall flat.
Yeah.
Because if I don't feel beautiful, you can call me beautiful all day and
Yeah.
it won't
Right.
matter.
So
Yeah.
remember, one of the things we talked about like several weeks or so ago was that, and it was something when you all said it was like, daggone it, like so nailed, like the way I had handled it. And it was very much of like, you shouldn't feel that way,
Yeah.
or, you know,
Yes.
Yeah.
and the reality is I can't tell my daughter not to feel a certain way, that
Yeah.
it's not justified to
Yeah.
feel a certain way, because
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I kind of take away that opportunity for the conversation by telling her,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you shouldn't
Yeah.
compare yourself to other girls.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel fat. You shouldn't
Mhm.
feel as if you are less than, you know, your best friend and things like that.
But
And
I do.
So
I do.
yeah, so
Yeah.
let's talk about that for a minute. So why do we compare ourselves? Why do you think we compare ourselves?
I'm shooting that to you.
Yeah, I mean, because we do, right? We all. It's
Yeah.
it's so funny because it's again it's that whole like we see the tree and we see the forest, but which is which, right? And this is one of those topics that we all do it subconsciously, and probably way more than we think we do. But why do you think we do that?
I mean,
So-
I don't know. I mean, there is that like just cultural part of it where everyone else is doing it, and you hear your parents doing it, and so you're like, well, everyone feels bad about themselves, so I guess I should too. But there's got to be more to it.
Well, it's we think that other person or that model or that athlete or Carol has the look, right? Beautiful woman. And I could stand next to Carol and go, man, I am nothing like Carol. I'm more short. I'm a little bit more squatty or muscular, right? And Carol is tall and lean and a beautiful looking woman. So I can look at Carol and go, oh my gosh, look at this woman.
And I want your muscles
So-
and your curly hair.
But do you see what I'm saying? So what I am doing is I am giving her the power to make me how to feel, right? She doesn't even know she's got it, right? So we compare because we put more value in other people's opinions and our thoughts and our skill set and our talent and our profession than we put in our own selves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
And this is, you guys, this right here, parents, everybody, this is the issue. Is we literally, it's like if I were to unplug one of these lights, which would be really nice, right? But, because it's hot. I mean, if I could unplug one of these lights and if I plugged it in Carol and I made Carol be the source of energy for my life, what does that do to Carol and what does that do to me?
it's draining.
Right, but it also diminishes the
Yeah.
uniqueness of me. So I think this whole comparison, and that's where body image becomes so huge, because we focus on body image, we focus on weight, we focus on the outward rather than what is my value as a human being. I mean, really stop to think about it. 7.2 billion people in the world, and no one has my DNA. No one has your DNA. No one has your fingerprint. That makes us pretty unique, right? Pretty special people. So where do we really plug in to become more self-sufficient, to be more secure within ourselves? Right? Is it each other? Or is it valuing who we are as our own human beings?
So one of the things that makes me think of in terms of like shifting the conversation is in, like Shelby's talking about the way that we talk to each other, and how do you start acknowledging the things in your friends that aren't the outward,
Yeah.
but the things that are really important to you about that friend in terms
Yes.
of what they have to
Yes.
offer and what they bring to the table that makes them unique.
Yeah.
And like how
Yeah.
easy is it to,
It's
or how challenging, I mean, so how strange would it be all of a sudden if you didn't bring discussion about the way my hair is, the way I look today, but you acknowledged in your friend there's something that made her like such a cool friend? Would they be like, ooh, Shelby, what happened to you?
or be humble, right? Which is a little bit of what we talked about. Be humble and going, yeah, my hair is a little bit out of sorts today, right? I feel that way about it, my hair every day because it does whatever it wants, right? But I've accepted it. But it's that sense of be humble, like, yeah, I wish I looked a little bit, I dressed decent better today.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is the good thing I got going on for me today. It's both and. Because I think it's about acknowledging how you truly do feel about yourself.
Well, and
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. And what, like, this is similar to what you were talking about, but when I was hanging out with my boyfriend the other day, I noticed that he would never, ever, ever, ever say anything negative about himself. He would never point out and be like, oh, my legs are so hairy. I mean, I don't know why he would, but, you know, if he did, he doesn't just sit there and, like, pick out things about himself. And I noticed that I was over there just like, oh, like, I'm really jiggly, or I have too much hair somewhere, you know? I would say all these things, and I just felt like this disconnect, because he was out there, like, seeing the world, seeing everything, and just enjoying his time, and I was over there just in myself, just inwardly thinking, and just being negative in my own little bubble, and probably spreading the negativity. And I was like, you know what? I really want to change, because I want to value the things around me, not look at what's in me and judge myself. I want to just be in this time where I'm just with this other person and not focusing on myself and like, oh no, what if I look bad?
Right. So it's like, where are you going to put your energy?
Yeah.
So I can put my energy about what I'm not happy with myself,
Yeah.
or I can take my energy and put it out towards things that are more fulfilling, that make you enjoy where you are and what you're doing.
And it's,
So that's a really cool. I like that. And it's so interesting that it's in a relationship with a male who doesn't tend to do those type of things. That that you recognize how much was going on.
And I know he's insecure, so I know he could be just like I am, but he's not.
He just doesn't verbalize it as much as women do, right?
Yeah, he's spending his energy other ways.
Yeah.
Which I want to learn to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's almost like this cultural deal where, like, if someone says something positive to me, I have to name 3 negative things. Like, if they're like, oh, your hair looks great, and I'll be like, yeah, well, you know, I didn't get my makeup done, I didn't really have time to do my hair, and, you know, I just can't find clothes that fit me anymore. And it's like, for every positive that there is given, there's like all these negatives, where if, you know, it's the outward stuff, where if somebody just looked and said, man, like, you're really smart, it's like, how do I have nothing for that. I can't be like, well, actually.
But why?
You know, there's not so much.
Again, and okay, so I'm a therapist, right? I mean, like, I want to come back to that place of, like, if somebody said, you're incredibly intelligent and beautiful, why do we feel the need? We think that it's in a humility, or a false humility almost, to counteract it with a negative. Instead of true humility is really acknowledging your strengths and your weaknesses. So it's acknowledging, God, thanks, you know? Really letting that in. True humility is saying, thank you, because you're acknowledging that is your strength, right?
Instead of just brushing it.
Instead of just brushing, because we dismiss, but when we do that, we dismiss our authentic human being, but we're also dismissing the others.
Right.
Because they're wanting to give you a gift, you know? And we're like, no, because there's these three other things about me that aren't.
If you knew about these things.
Yeah. If you only knew, you know.
So if we're parents,
Yeah.
we're talking about how, you know, children are going to struggle with body image, but how do they know if their child is struggling with body image?
So that's what I want to go into. So slide, please, if it's not already there, right? How do you think your mom notices, or anybody?
Well, I know that some things are going to be a lot more obvious than other things. But I think when you're spending time with your child, when you're around your child, when you're just like in the kitchen with them, or in the living room, or wherever you are, just listen to the things that they're saying.
Yeah.
Are they talking about bodies? Are they comparing themselves? And what are the things they're saying? Are they being like, you know, this person's smarter than me? Are they being like, this person is thinner than me? Or this person has more muscle than me?
Yeah.
Are they talking about bodies, and is it in a positive way, or what? Like, sometimes it'll be really obvious what they're saying. They'll be like, you know, I
Just
can't
listening
eat this
in on their...
because I'm trying to lose weight because I don't, you know, or like, I can't fit into my jeans anymore, even though they're like 3 years old, but I still want to fit in them. You know, there's like, there's things that are obvious in their talk, but you just have to listen to them. You have to listen for it.
And some things that parents can really look at is oftentimes youth will hide in a crowd, right? They'll just kind of get lost. They'll spend a lot of time alone. They'll wear super baggy clothes. or they'll wear super tight clothes, lots of makeup. It's still trying to hide.
Yeah, and on that part, as far as the makeup goes, like I was always somebody who was, I show my creative side through what I wear and how I do my makeup and my hair, and I love those things. And so, you know, I would do, my first time I used eyeliner was like these Egyptian swirls that were amazing from a 12-year-old, and things like that. But I think, yeah, Egyptian swirls.
I'm like going,
In my mind, in my 12-year-old mind, I'm like an Egyptian queen right now. Like, you know, they do the whole side.
Yeah.
My grandma was not as impressed. But
Too cute.
but when, I guess the danger is, or the things to look out for is, can your child leave the home without makeup on? If you say, hey, we need to hit the grocery store, I need to pick up some eggs, and they're like, hold on, let me go put my face on.
Give me an hour.
It's like, if it's constant, like, if people can't come over without them putting makeup on, so is it now something that they're hiding? Or are they expressive with their makeup? You know, are they practicing and they like the look of it? Or does it become a necessary thing to have on to be seen by another person? Needing that perfection. And same things with, you know, clothes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to bring up, is like in 7th grade, every single day for school, I would wear this gigantic, oversized hoodie because I didn't want anyone to see my body. And it could be scorching hot outside, and I would wear it because I couldn't handle anyone. I like thinking about anyone like seeing my body, seeing like the shape of it. And it was like as my body was changing, and so I was really uncomfortable with it. And I mean, you know, if your child is over there wearing hoodies in 100-degree weather, you might want to ask them what's going on.
Inquiry would be advisable, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, or like I always wore pants. I had a stepmother who was very, very petite, very small, worked out all the time. And I, as a child, right before I hit my growth spurt, I gained weight because that's what you do before you sprout up.
Typical girls,
And I remember her sitting right next to me, and she grabbed her thigh, and she goes, "Do you see this?" And then she grabbed my thigh, and she goes, "Do you see this?" And she grabbed her thigh again and said, "This is what men want." She grabbed mine, and she goes, "But not this." And to her, it was a way. And culturally, because she's not from here, culturally that is her loving me by telling me,
trying to help you to change.
Right? And in the way that she knew how, but I didn't wear shorts, I don't think, until maybe about 2 years ago. And even then, it can be really difficult. But it was something where, like, if all of a sudden the wardrobe changes, like significant, or, you know,
or even gradual, you know, because you can, even the gradual, like moving to bigger sizes, that could demonstrate some kind of eating disorder, anorexia, bulimia, body dysmorphia, all kinds of different things that are along those lines that parents can just be aware of and just take note. And what I'd really encourage parents to do is not depending on the age of the child or the youth, is maybe not ask direct questions, but just start floating out questions, or start open-ended questions like, honey, I've kind of noticed your clothes are baggy. What's going on there? Or food changes, but to not hit it on the head, because you want to open for conversation rather than cause your child or your youth to feel like, man, I can't talk to mom or dad. Or
So you're saying don't be too direct.
If you start noticing things, I wouldn't be too direct in the beginning. I mean, I think most parents, I think there's like a God-given intuition that I think parents discern things. I really do.
Yeah.
Because you shut them down too much.
It will shut them down. Right. But if you approach them, and especially, and Shelby, you can answer this probably a little bit better just because of your age, right? Especially in the teen years, or when they're like in junior high, high school. Those are because they're starting to detach from mom and dad and learn a sense of independence and attach more to their peers. So if you just float ideas out, or you just float questions out, or just observations, what you're doing is you're open the door for conversation. And then I think most parents will know this is getting serious. you know, and then that's when you start saying, okay, so then you start to have the more direct question. But you want to really try and invite them into the conversation with you rather than your mom, I'm not even talking to you, or your dad, I'm not talking to you.
As the parent, I think it's really important also to tell them, you know, maybe after like a question or two, what your intent is, because messages can always get, you know, scrambled, and people be like, well, my mom said this, and she was just trying to make me feel bad, even though the mom might be like, no, I was just trying to learn about how you're feeling and try to help you, but the kid might, you know, mix messages. So I think clearly stating, you know, I'm being like, I'm worried that you're struggling, and I just want to make sure that I'm here for you, and you can come to me and we can talk about this. And I think also making sure that the conversation isn't just about the kid.
Yeah.
It does need to be, you know, the kid needs to talk, and then the mom needs to be like, or whoever can be like, you know, I see that you're struggling with this, you know, I do struggle with this also.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can work on this together, and we can bounce ideas off of each other, and we can try to make progress together instead of just being like, well, we're just going to try to fix you while I'm over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, that was a big thing because unlike Shelby, I was very open with my mom. And I would approach her about lots of things. You know, someone would say something to me I didn't understand. So I'd be like, hey, Mom. She was like, what?
She probably was like, oh, no.
And so, like, when things like that came up, like, that was that safe place for me. And if you have a child like that who is very open and connected in that way, you know, even though, you know, not everything she said got through and stuff, really think about maybe some of the activities and the things that can be done. I know that when I changed my, you know, started wearing pants all the time, I stopped being able to wear junior sizes. I was trying to fit into them, and like I was busting out the seams and literally pants splitting and everything. It was horrible because I was a full-figured woman at a very early age, and that was a difficult transition. And
trying to fit the expectations.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at what your needs are for your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was something that my mom, you know, there wasn't much she could say that I understood or that I was accepting. And so she took me to this super high-end store, and she's like, can't get anything, but let's look around and let's see what beautiful women wear, and let's try on some of these clothes. And she actually started teaching me how to dress myself in women's sizes
appropriate for you.
And appropriate for me.
That's awesome.
And it became a fun activity that her and I would go do.
And did you feel more like, I can just be me?
Yeah, it was something
That's
where
awesome.
I have a very distinct style, and a lot of it came from those times when her and I would just go and do something like that. Now, I usually left the store crying because I couldn't get the beautiful clothes, but it was a work in progress. But yes, now it made it a lot easier, and it took years, but it made it easier that when I see today's fashion for a body type that is not my own, no longer does it hit me where I'm like, I'm not good enough. Yeah. Now I can sit there and be like, I see what she's wearing, and I think it looks wonderful on her. Yeah. I'm going to try the same colors, but in a different way. Yeah. And so it's a lot easier now. Yeah. But it's those things. Maybe your child isn't able to hear you, so then you have to go do things. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
So, Holly, what's your thought just in terms of it? When does a parent and their child need to take it outside of the home conversation and look for some extra help? Because, I mean, I think it's a conversation that needs to start at home and needs to be ongoing, not just when a problem starts, but if parents can start learning to have those conversations early, so that actually you might be able to for it not to be a problem. But if it does become a problem, when do you bring in? When do you reach out to someone
I
like
think,
yourself?
well, generally, like when I see, because oftentimes I see families, and I see a lot of like mother-daughter, but oftentimes the child will start to feel distressed. And the parents, if the parents start opening up the conversation, just that right there will cause them to like talk more. So, and when the parent feels like, okay, this is out of my scope and field, you need extra help. So then you'll look someone up. Okay. And that's generally when they come into the office. And what I do as a therapist is, like, usually I'll get a call from mom or dad, unless they my kid and da-da-da-da, because they're really worried. And the first thing that I ask is, does your child want to deal with it? Are they stressed out enough? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, have them call me. So then I'll have a one-on-one conversation, and the parents in the room, you know, depending on the age of the child. Then the child or the youth, they're ready to deal.
Right.
You know, but it does start at home. And parents generally, again, it's like, I can't say it enough. Parents, trust your intuition. You got it. It's that innate thing that you have. Trust
Right.
it.
Right.
And start the conversations. Go ahead.
So, Shelby, what are your thoughts in terms of, like, what do parents need to know as far as when to reach out beyond what they're capable of doing?
Well, I mean, first of all, reaching out in terms of just like talking to the kid, I think like anytime, even if the kid feels great about their body, but once it gets out of, you know, well, I think what parents need to understand is you're not going to have all of the tools, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it is okay.
Yeah.
To get help with parenting.
Yeah.
Because I know like sometimes it can like hurt their pride or just it can be hard because you know you want to be a good parent, but sometimes things or you might not have the information you need. You might not have the tools to deal with the situation, and I mean, I'd say definitely if your child, you're suspecting that your child has an eating disorder,
Yeah.
that should
And you'll
definitely
know
be
that.
handled with a
Yeah.
professional. But I would say just like try working through it with your child for maybe not the eating disorder, but like just body image issues. Like just try working with your child for like a month or two and see it, and like keep going back to the conversation and see if you are making progress, and if you don't see progress being made, if the child is still feeling not comfortable in their own body, if you don't see the progress being made, even though you're having these conversations, you're coming back to it, and, then that's when you need to go. And
I think it starts to show up too in school. It starts to show up withdrawn from friends, grades. Their hair starts to go dull. Their teeth will start. I mean, there's a lot of different signs and symptoms that you can start to look for if it really starts to get critical.
Right.
But I think that the clothes, like a little bit of the things that we were talking about earlier,
Well, and I would
signs to
also
look
say,
for.
if you as a parent are really struggling on breaking through, and you're not even sure you're saying the right thing, and it seems like butting heads every time you have that conversation, that would be another time that you might want to reach out and just say, even for yourself, just say, how can I reach this? And there's a lot of love and intention when a parent does that. And but if the connection is not feeling safe or really, really struggling, it's always okay to then reach out and say, would you prefer to talk to somebody else? You know?
Well, and I feel like it would be beneficial even like not just to like send your child away to counseling, but for you guys to go together.
Right.
So that way
Or
you can
float
build that
out both
relationship.
ideas. You know, would you? Because it depends. Again, it depends on the age, and sometimes a youth would feel, you know, more comfortable just sitting one-on-one with a counselor. And sometimes it's for both.
Right.
You know, I know what I do is if the child wants to come in and just see me, you know, the parent knows, and I establish with the youth, okay, so this is the stuff that I will relate back to your parents. So parents are not going to be in the dark when it comes to serious issues. But I always give them the opportunity to come in and be a part of that conversation with mom and dad. And sometimes, and it's both and. It's you're going to hand that to her?
Yeah, please.
So, would that? How would you feel if that was offered to you, Shelby, or was that?
It was multiple times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And for whatever reason, you know.
Well, and I've had one-on-one counseling, and I've also done counseling with my parents there. But it was still like focused around me, and I feel like it would be. I just feel like the relationship. There's a chance to build on your relationship if you're there and you guys are both trying to work through these issues together, and that way you know that. I mean, it just shows a level of support. I mean,
it's connection.
Either way,
it's connection, connecting.
And I think also for parents when they're struggling, it may be to look out, to reach out, to get more information, to understand. It's hard to have a conversation about something you don't really grasp.
Yeah.
So I would think be either in reaching out to the professional community or heaven knows there's probably, I'm sure there's books and all kinds of resources.
Yeah.
But part of it is really getting an understanding of what are the struggles, what's typical cultural, and how, and particularly I think it's like Shelby's talking about, is recognizing that generational
It's so different.
connection in terms of what we as parents bring into it and don't even recognize are part of the conversation, to be able to have that authentic connection with you all.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it's hard on parents to be able to have that honest conversation because, you know, they want to have that perfection for us so that they can, you know, so that we do feel safe and we do
they want to
feel
be
like
the perfect model that we can like.
And in reality, what we really need is to learn how to work through this stuff because we have no idea how.
And because it will arise.
And it will rise. We cannot stop other people influence us as well as us influencing others. And it shows a lot of strength and role modeling to sit there and say yes, like.
So what that makes me think of is that, I mean, it is okay to want to be a beautiful woman, to feel beautiful, and to be able to project that. So that idea of how do we model that balance for our kids, that it's okay to, you know, to want to have a look, but for it not to be so focused on it that it's such a priority. What's more important is being true to ourselves first.
Yeah, authenticity.
And then still being comfortable in our skin and still being able to want.
And being comfortable not just with the strengths and wanting to be a beautiful person, right? Because I think we all have, it's kind of that sense of, I do want to be that.
And defining. So, and a part of it is that definition of what does beautiful look like. It doesn't have to look like
That's
this.
a whole other,
Beautiful me can look like this and feeling comfortable.
It's like when we talk about the difference between calories and nutrients. Do we want to have a society completely focused on the calories we consume or the nutrients? Like, what is healthier to talk about? And I think beauty is the same thing. What is a healthy, respectful way of honoring our bodies, you know, treasuring them as they are, and yes, dressing nicely and maybe putting makeup on and doing your hair and those things, but also acknowledging like that it's not that you have to put makeup on or you have to do your hair or you have to buy, you know, the fashion of the day to be beautiful.
I think it's okay to be like, you know, I want to lose weight. I want to be more comfortable
in my skin.
But like, I think it's just like, you know, the way you're projecting these ideas. Like, instead of standing there and being like, I'm so fat and I want to be skinny and I feel ugly, you'd be like, you know, I'd really like to make progress on my body and to lose weight and get to a healthier place. Like, there's just different ways that you can talk
both
about
and. It's accepting that I want to be that, but it's also accepting I'm also weak in here. I'm also weak in this area. It's accepting both and embracing both, because that's true authenticity. Right? It's accepting both and modeling both.
And it's so funny because it wasn't until this year, because I have been working on losing weight and working out and things for years now, and it actually wasn't until I met my partner, and he approaches it in such a different way that I'm like, I feel fat, and he was like, he didn't acknowledge that I felt fat, but he was like, so you have some weight you'd like to get rid of.
He reframed it.
Yeah.
He totally reframed it.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I'm like, well, I want to work out and I want to eat healthy. Or I need to eat less. And he's like, so what are some of the healthy things that we can eat now? And it was like, he immediately jumped into
That's cool.
what I wanted to eat, how I wanted to do it, working out, and always, you know, and catching me and saying like, we will not have negative self-talk. And so even pulling me aside over in crowds and being like, that was negative, do you want to reframe that? Like, don't do that.
So take that and apply that to what parents can do with their kids.
So very much like, you know, if you do have a child who wants to lose weight, and just say, you know, because I think parents are always going to say this. I don't know if they know how not to. I think you're perfect, but I see that this is something that you're really struggling with. So what are some of the things that you would like to see?
And here's like a step that we can take to get you towards that goal and make sure that it's not unhealthy.
I think another question too is really, honey, why do you want to lose weight?
Well,
I mean,
because
seriously.
it's important to feel comfortable with yourself. Like in
Yeah.
weight loss, you need to be comfortable with yourself as you are, no matter what
Yeah.
weight you are, before you
Right.
can like actually make
Exactly.
the progress you need to make.
Exactly. Because when a person moves from a place of, I need to change the behavior because I have to look this way, it's not going to last. All these diet fads, all this stuff, I mean, society, it shows, right? History repeats itself time and again. But when I was coaching and stuff, I still coach, but it's that whole sense of, can you accept and love who you are right here, right now? You know, saddlebags and all, or whatever. Can you? And most of my clients are like, hell, excuse me, no way, Holly. You know, that whole sense. Sorry, I apologize.
We're just being very authentic.
Yeah. Oh man, that might come back. Huh? So I apologize. Stop. But it's that whole sense of can you be? The first step is, can you just learn to love you right here, right now? And so that's why the question is really, honey, why? And they might go, well, hello, Mom, can't you see that I'm like 30 pounds overweight or whatever? It's like, yeah, but why? And let them sit with, why do they? Because that starts the internal process. Again, it's not about because I want to look like so-and-so. It's because I want to be the best me I know how to be.
Well, and I think it helps with teaching our youth how to not compare themselves by making sure that we're building values and beliefs that they can hold on to. And I say this a lot, like when you just say no to drugs. Well, research shows that if it's just at that level, it's too shallow. And eventually that no will become a yes because there's no foundation to it. And so when we ask, like, why do you want to lose weight? And having that honest conversation and trying to help our youth develop their own values and beliefs around why that's important to them. So, like, in the last year, realizing, like, I get really sick. You know, I have, my family has problems with, like, diabetes and stuff that, if I'm not at a healthy weight, that it's something I can very, very, very for sure look forward to. And knowing that that's the core that I need to hold, because otherwise I'm a pretty happy person. And so developing those with our youth, not just saying like, well, I need to lose weight because Tiffany lost weight and she looks fabulous and everyone says she looks fabulous. Well, that's great for Tiffany, but what is the value there? What's the belief there? What are you trying to accomplish? And is this something that we need to change our viewpoints on?
And the shift is from outward to inward. And I think a lot of the questions and even a lot of the slides, I'm not sure how we're doing on time.
So I was going to say, do you want to jump to slides, even though we're kind of doing it in an odd way in terms of...
There's a lot of the slides, and I'm not quite sure where we are because I can't see where they are, but it's about your relationship with your body, and then questions for reflection that I would really encourage parents to ask themselves, as well as the youth. Who or what defines you? I mean, if you just think about that one question, who or what defines you? Just sit with that, and I think that ties in, Carol, with what you were just asking about. How do you have the conversation with your kids, or where do you start it, or who or what's in charge of your life? Like, how much do we live our lives for the media? How much do we live our lives for the mirror? How much do we live our lives for what we look like on the outside?
Well, and can I say something?
Yeah, yes, please.
Well, so a lot of this we're talking about like parents, what they can do for their children. But if you're a youth, if you're a child, and you're listening to this or watching this, you can take this as a little push of courage to go and approach your parent, because I know that was hard for me. I could never approach my parents for whatever reason. But knowing that parents are almost always truly there to love you and try to help you, and take that push to start the conversation. It doesn't have to be the parent.
Right. Good point.
Because I know we're talking a lot about parents, but if you are a child or a youth, you can also
start the convo,
And one of the things that you mentioned yesterday that's connected to that is that if you want to start a pact with your girlfriends, or your guy friends, and saying like, here is what we're not going to do anymore. We're going to call each other out on negative comments. We're going to only use positive affirmations.
Yeah, you can start this with your friends.
Yeah, let's do a walk.
I like that idea.
And just make
start a new trend.
Right.
Yeah. And so that, maybe you have to build up courage to talk to your parent, or maybe you already have that conversation with your parent, but when you go to school, it is just so overwhelming. So very much as youth, take a handle, because you can.
Yeah.
Well, considering what youth are doing around the country these days, I mean, that's where a lot of our social change is. We're seeing more change coming from the younger high school age even is. So I can see something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, having that conversation and being like, this is important and we need to take charge of this, and this is, cultural values are really messing with us. It's not doing us any good.
No.
What do we want to do? And that, I can see it being successful. It's a dynamic group of young kids, young adults that are making differences. Yeah.
The more positive you talk, the less negativity really breaches that. And it shows through your friends. The more positive you are, they can't help but be more positive.
Yeah. Force it on them.
Authentic selves.
Any other slides we want to?
Well, I think that they've been shown, but I wasn't sure about time. So
time-wise, we're fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think just to mention that the slides that Holly has put together are really great tools for parents to be able to reflect on for themselves,
youth.
And for youth to reflect, and that those will be posted with the webinar. So you can go to the link on Idaho Federation of Families, and you can go to the website, click on the webinar. You can see the slides and everything, and it'll be there for you for later contemplation.
Yeah.
I know, when I first read the slides, I was like, well, this is deep. But like, it's good. It's meant to be deep. It's good to like look deeper than just the surface.
Yeah.
So any takeaways? Any like 3 points that if you wanted people to finish this conversation with, that you would want them to take away?
I would say, let's see.
What are your top points? Instead of defining them for you, what are your top things you want them to take away?
The big thing, if you're a parent, or just whoever, be honest with yourself. Look at yourself. Take what you've learned just from all of this and start a conversation. Even if you don't feel totally prepared, just start the conversation and try to be honest with yourself and with your child, and just try to notice when you are having the negative talk, and try to find ways to make it positive.
I'd say on that too, Shelby, and really sitting with yourself and really accepting yourself in that place, the good, the bad, the ugly. Finding that self-love and finding that self-acceptance. Because when there's an interior change, then there's an exterior change. And then we're not trying to change the outside, but the behavior, we're changing it from within. That's what I think. And that's where this issue, it gets lost way out there, because we're not moving from our core being of a level of self-acceptance and love.
I think for me the importance is a reminder that as parents or as youth, that your feelings are valid, that it's good to acknowledge them, so that you can start working through them, and that you're not alone. That there are parents everywhere who are trying to figure out how to do this, and there are youth everywhere who are struggling with the same questions. And so that when it comes to it, reach out, because we're all here.
I think for me, the biggest takeaway came from a conversation like a week or so ago, and listening to Shelby talk. And I think I really diminished the role of parent, because I have felt like so much of the issues around body image are all culturally based, be it the advertising, the music, the movies, the peers. And for Shelby to go, no, really, mom and dad do, like, their influence is as big or bigger than any of the others. And I really passed it off to the other, but still having those conversations, but more about like well, you can't look at, what that model looks like or what's happening
Yeah.
in that movie and things like that.
Yeah.
And not having brought it home
Yeah.
to just how I have felt in my own body and what I have modeled, and having those conversations in relationship to me and her. It's always been about her
Yeah.
and the outside community.
Yeah.
And that was just, I just was like, oh man. And so at 19, I feel like to some
Yeah.
degree I've missed the boat. Not that it can't still have some of those
Never missed the boat with
conversations,
your kids.
but
Never.
wanting to share that
Yeah,
information
but
with
yeah.
moms that have younger
Sure,
daughters,
yeah.
to be able to let them know. So, that for me was like this gold nugget that you gave me, because I was just
Yeah.
like, really? Really? Oh, where were you 10
Parents
years
really
ago,
do
Shelby?
matter. Yeah.
I was a babe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, thank you. Thank you for the honest sharing. I think to be vulnerable and to be willing to put this out here and know that other people will see it and hear it.
Yeah.
And I think they will definitely benefit both adults and youth from what you've been willing to share, Shelby. You're just a rock star as
Yeah.
far as we're
Yeah.
concerned. And
Absolutely.
Susie for all the work that you've done. And again, your honesty too, because
Yeah.
you put a lot on the table.
Yeah.
And your mom's willingness to let you
Yes, yes.
divulge some of
Trust me, I'm
the history.
expecting a phone call after this.
And thank you so much, Holly. I hope that you will come back and join us, because I think, just in being able to have those conversations and
Yeah.
the perspective that you bring that kind of wraps it up so that it is positive and it brings us back to really what's most important in it. And it is the connections, the relationships, and being honest
Yeah.
with ourselves and being authentic. How do we develop
Yeah.
that authentic person?
Yeah.
Because I think that's where our lives really start to get better and our
Yes,
relationships improve,
absolutely.
instead of
Yeah.
worrying about the outside. But
Yeah.
so I think those are steps that we'll take. So hopefully you will continue to lead us along the way.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, thank you very much for joining us for
Yeah.
the webinar, and we will have more coming up. I'm not exactly sure what September is, but take it. Have a good day, and we'll see you again. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.